Hi, everyone, and welcome to Fierce Conversations with Toby, the show where we discover the silver lining in life's most difficult stories. I'm your host, Toby Dorr. In today's episode, we're going to learn what it means to say that I am enough. Our guest today is Tanaine Jenkins, who helps returning citizens embrace their past and become everything they are, flaws and all. Welcome, Tanaine. It's so great to have you here.
It is awesome to be here, Toby. How are you today?
I'm excellent. You know, LinkedIn is a great place. I find so many interesting people there, and I'm so glad that you agreed to do our podcast because I think you have a message that's important to get out there into the world.
Yes, ma'am. LinkedIn is amazing. I love it so much.
It is.
Because I get to meet people like you.
Yes. I like to ask my guests a question that kind of gives us some insight into who you are. And that question is, what's your favorite color and what does that say about you?
My favorite color is blue. It says I'm super duper calm. That's what that says about me.
Oh, that's excellent. Yes. That's an important characteristic.
It's very much. I'm tranquil. I even have the tattoo to prove it.
Oh, wow.
It means tranquility.
I don't think anybody in my life would describe me as tranquil or calm. And it's something that I really need to learn to adapt. But I just am always going. So I love that. I love that. Can you tell us about a crossroads in your life that pushed you in a different direction?
Several, actually. But the number one crossroad was, in fact, when I went to prison. I defrauded a financial institution for $88,000 and was sentenced to 2 years prison, 5 years probation. And I had to figure out what I would do after I was released. Mm-hmm. And so I was at a crossroad, absolutely at that point in my life.
Prison is definitely a crossroad, that's for sure.
It is.
And you cannot come out of prison and be the same person you were when you went in. You either have to go in a worse direction or totally redirect your life and go in a complete different direction, I think.
Absolutely. Either you're going to come out worse than when you went in,
yes,
or better.
But you can't come out the same. It's not possible.
But you can't come out the same.
Yeah. You know, I thought when I got out of prison, I'd just go back home and drop right back into my life and just pick up where we left off. But it doesn't work that way because for us in prison, life kind of stops, it stalls. But for people outside in your life, your family members and friends, their lives go on and you're not a part of it. And you can't just, that gap is a gap and you've got to adjust and fit in a different way than you did before you left. Yeah.
Exactly. Like you said, your lives go on. Ours stop.
Yes. So recently I saw you on an interview where you talked about your sentence, and I thought that was so powerful. So can you tell us what that interview was about and that concept about your sentence?
So a lot of people don't understand that when people get out of prison, that is not when their sentence ends. Mm-hmm. And it's been deemed a second sentence. So when people are released, whether it's in prison or jail, they are continually serving another sentence, which is being sentenced to live below the poverty line, being sentenced to low-paying jobs and homelessness and being exiled from their families or communities. So it's so much further than what the judge gives us or what the deal that we make. It's never ending. It's like once a felon, always a felon. And it's sad, really.
It's like a life sentence. So, you know, I feel the same way. When I went to prison, you know, the court system representing society told me what they expected of me to repay my error. But it's never paid because you're right. You come out of prison and you still have to check that box as a felon. And a year and a half ago, I moved to Virginia from Kansas City. And I've lived in Massachusetts, Missouri, Kansas, and now Virginia since I've been out of prison. I have never not voted in an election until I got to Virginia. And I was shocked to find out that in the state of Virginia, felons are banned from voting for life. You don't get the rights back. You have to petition the governor when he has to review your individual case to decide that it's okay for you to vote. Now, why was it okay for me to vote 2 years ago? And now today, all of a sudden, I'm not worthy of voting just because I've moved to a different state? I mean, it's just ludicrous. It doesn't make a bit of sense.
And in 2018 in Florida, Amendment 4 was passed, and that restored all the voting rights for the felons in Florida. However, there were loopholes. Like if you owed fines or anything like that, you couldn't.
Or you had certain kinds of crimes, you wouldn't be allowed. And they caught a bunch of people and had to send them back to prison because they registered to vote because they thought they had the right and they didn't.
No.
That's ridiculous.
That's not exactly. I work with FRC, Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. And what actually happened is that when they went to the DMV, they were asked, hey, did you vote or are you registered to vote? And they said, I can't. And I guess you can. Here's a voter registration card. So they would give them voter registration card.
Yes. They were led to believe that they could register to vote. And then it turns out because of some loophole in the law that individual person wasn't eligible. But no one told them that. So they really were tricked, I think, into registering to vote when they shouldn't have.
And they were charged with voter fraud. And our governor went out after all these people, unknowingly. And the thing is, it wasn't fraud because they didn't know that they were doing something wrong. Now, there were individuals that were caught in Florida who knowingly voted twice and didn't get the treatment that these people
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Wow.
And I believe people who scare individuals from not voting
and didn't get in trouble, but people who were tricked into registering, they wanted their heads on a platter. And it's simply because they were felons. And who cares what happens to felons? And that's just a totally ridiculous mindset that needs to change. So I love what you said. Our sentences are never done.
They are never done. And I think it was to actually scare other individuals not to vote soon election. So, I think it was two-sided.
Yeah, I agree. That was quite a mess. So you're passionate about equipping reentry programs with the tools needed to help reduce the recidivism rate, as well as providing clients with the knowledge and power to succeed. And I've written down some of the things that you think are important in a reentry program. And one of them is to help people change their mindset. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
So in 2000, I went to prison in 2010, came home at 12, and 8 years later, in 2020, I was still in this funk, I guess. I was in a rut. And what it was is that the stigma of being a felon was weighing heavy on me. And I felt like I couldn't do the things that I did before prison. So I went to prison. When I went to prison, I was in college to get my computer networking and telecommunications degree. I was a business analyst making upward of $60,000 a year. And when I came home, I didn't have access to any of that any longer. And therefore, I believed what society said about me. I believed that I wasn't enough, that I wouldn't succeed, that, prison was the end of my life, basically. So when you have that mindset, you're stuck and you cannot move forward. And so when you change that mindset, when you are able to see past your past, basically, or even past where you are at that moment, then that's when you begin to grow. And that's when things begin to happen. In 2020, a friend of mine, no, it was 2021, a friend of mine said, Tanaine, one day I hope you feel like you're enough. And that's when I realized I didn't feel like I was enough.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. I remember in one of my counseling sessions, my counselor asked me, what would you tell the old Toby if you could give her a message? And I said, I would tell her she's enough. I mean, I think that's so important. And then I saw that was one of your messages. So I really felt a connection there because so many of us think that we are not enough. And the truth is, we can always become more, but we are enough as we are. We're worthy of something. And I think that's
Yes,
such a
ma'am.
powerful message. I love that.
And,
You also talk
and the fact
about,
that,
oh, go ahead.
now I was just going to say the fact that we were worthy before we went in, we're still worthy after we come out.
That's right. I so agree. In fact, in a lot of ways, we may be even more worthy because when you come out of prison, I think you bring some wisdom with you that was hard
Absolutely.
won. And that's a powerful tool to use, I think. So you also talk about the importance of creating an action plan. And tell me a little
Yes.
bit about that and tell me why it's hard for people to come up with an action plan.
A man that doesn't plan plans to fail. It's hard to it's hard to come up with an action plan because one, we are limited in the things that we can do. We are limited in the jobs that we can apply for, the jobs that we now qualify for, whether we qualify for them before prison, we don't qualify after.
Mhm.
We are not able to see past, what society sees of us. Society sees a felon, I'm a felon. So
Mhm.
I didn't have a plan when I came home from prison. And I think that stagnated my growth. It absolutely, I don't think it is. I was stagnant because I didn't plan for anything. I just knew that I needed to get a job and I needed to pay this restitution and go to my probation officer every month. But when you actually have goals, you have something to reach for. And having an action plan is important because everyone needs goals, regardless of if they're big or little, if they're a day goal or a year goal or 5-year
Right.
goals. If without those goals, without that plan, then you're always going to be stuck in the same place. You're not going
Yeah,
to be able to move.
a plan does kind of force you to move in some direction. And when you're not feeling good about yourself, it's really comfortable to just stay stuck. But when you put
Yes.
together a plan and have goals, it forces you to start moving forward. And sometimes it's that first step that makes all the difference in the world. So I can
I
see the
agree.
value in that. And a lot of times I think people don't have a clue how to create an action plan or set goals because perhaps before they went to prison, they just lived a day at a time. So I think
Yes.
that really pushes them to become all that they can be. I think that's a pretty powerful thought.
And it goes hand in hand with that mindset change as well.
Yes, it does. It certainly does. And you also talk about helping people recognize how their decisions affect their lives and everyone else's lives that are close to them. We're kind of like the ripple effect. Everything you do, it
Yes.
just pulses out around you and affects everyone that you come into contact with. So I think that's pretty powerful way to look at the world. And tell me some of the examples that you've seen of how that's made a difference.
Children are collateral damage when their parents go to
Oh,
prison.
yes.
And there's this statistic that people don't talk about that 60% of children of incarcerated parents become incarcerated themselves.
Yes, that's
So
true. They
because
do.
the children of incarcerated parents need just as much help as their parents do because they have trauma and they need to get through the trauma of being separated or being snatched from their parent. And some people, most individuals or women that go to prison are single parents.
Yes.
So now
Yes,
who's
they
going
are.
to take care of their children? Now that children are in the system, it's like you said, it's just ripple effect. The collateral damage is deafening when individuals go to prison. Fortunately, I didn't have any biological children of my own. I had my nephews, and I had to show them something different. They came to visit me, and I had to tell them, "Hey, you don't want to be where I am right now." And it's just a wave, and it's going to continue until we figure out a way to try to block them, I guess.
Yeah,
pull them
I kind of look at it as, breaking the chain of a pattern, a repetitive pattern, because you do become what you know. You do become what's
Yes.
familiar in your life. And I think society with the stigma of being a felon, and they look at the children of felons and think they don't have a
Hmm.
chance, and the overall impression is that they don't have a chance, and the kids feel that, and so they believe they don't have a chance. And showing them something different and standing up and
Yeah.
moving in a different direction can be so powerful for a mother who's getting out of prison. I think it changes the lives of their children. It changes the lives of their grandchildren to come, and it just makes the world a better place.
I
So
say all the
society
time, children,
benefits. Mhm.
children
Society
cannot be what they
benefits.
cannot see.
That's right. They have to have a role model to show them
Yes.
what to do. And I think that's so powerful. Um, and you also say that our returning citizens are not looking for a handout. They're simply looking for a hand up. And
Yes, ma'am.
there are so many ways to help someone who's getting out of prison. And, one of the most obvious ways, I think, is for employers to be open to considering hiring a felon.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
many people who come out of prison are good, decent people who can make a difference in the world. And I think if you give a felon an employment opportunity, you will probably find that they're going to become one of the best employees you have, because they know how precious that opportunity is, and they don't want to jeopardize it.
I have it. My friends asked me, why do I work so hard? I said, because I know what it's like not to be able to work. I know what it's
Yes,
like not
yes.
to be able to have the opportunity. I I work 2 or 3 jobs. I don't have to do anything out, but I would work 2 or 3 jobs because I know what it's like to get a no. I know what it's like to be walked out of a job because of my
Mhm,
background check came back.
mhm,
And they thought
mhm.
that, I had this blemish on my background. I know what it's like. So I'm going to make sure that I am an upstanding and outstanding employee. That's
Yes.
just what it is. Because
Mhm,
when we get the opportunity to show what we have or show what we can do, then we're going to make the best of that opportunity.
mhm.
And kids hiring is a big push right now. And it should have always been a big push. I also say that, like I was saying before, when we went to prison, we had this skill set. We didn't lose the skill set when we came home.
Right,
I
right.
still am a data person. I still am a business analyst. I still have that mindset. My skills
Mhm.
didn't go away, but yet I can't get a position in that field because it's more so it's banking and
Right.
private education. So
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah. So I love what you say. Because of my past mistakes, I can help others in their process, so it doesn't take them years to feel like they are enough. That is
Yes,
such a
ma'am.
powerful message, that they are enough. You have an organization called Everything I Am. Can you tell us about
Yes.
that organization and your mission?
So everything I am started when my friend said one day, I hope you feel like you're enough.
Mhm,
And I started to think, and I was like, if I don't feel like I'm enough, I'm sure there are many other people that
mhm,
have been in my shoes or that are in my shoes that don't feel like they're enough either.
mhm,
So I just wanted to start a clothing line, just a confidence boosting clothing line, with just inspirational or confidence boosting messages on them. Like, I am enough. I am
mhm,
everything. I am more than
mhm,
enough. I am
mhm,
everything and then some. And when I started the clothing line and it started to do really well, I was like, okay, what's next?
mhm.
And another friend, you gotta have good friends. You gotta
That's
have good
right. They
people in
make
your
all the
life.
difference.
They do. Another friend, they were like, you really should speak. And I was like, I guess I could. And I'm a
Mhm,
spoken word poet, so I'm used to the stage, not an issue. And you, an ex of mine was telling my story, but was telling it wrong. And so I would have to go and correct the wrong telling of my story. And when I started to tell my story, I began to get stronger and I began to
uh-huh.
get freer. And it was a healthy thing. And so everything I am took a different direction. And I began to speak. And I received my public speaking certification in 2022. And even before I uh, received my certification, I was speaking on the steps of the Florida Capitol. And that's how it all started. I
That's
reached out to an
amazing.
organization and said, how can I help? And I told them, they asked me what my story was. I told them my story. And they said, you could help. And everything I am just became this public speaking platform for myself. And then now I use the clothing line to fund the speaking engagements because I do a lot of things out of my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
But the clothing line use that, and it also helps with the necessities when men and women come home and they may need bus tickets or they may need just toiletries, deodorant, toothbrush. And so we are able to buy those things and give them to those individuals that need it.
I love that. I love your message. Everything I am enough. I can relate to all of that. I've lived it and it's powerful. It's really powerful. You also have a book out, From Prison to President, 7 Ways to Succeed in Your Second Chance. When was your book released?
It was released last year, and it's funny because I forget about it. I'm like, oh yeah, I did write this book. Right? I did write that book. It was released when was officially in November of last year.
And, so like 5 months ago or a year and 5 months ago?
5 months ago.
5 months ago. That's excellent. Yes. Yeah. My book was released last year too. It was released in June. So we have that in common also. I think it's just amazing. Yeah, we have a lot in common, I think. So what's next for Tanaine?
Oh, wow. Well, I have a contract with the state of Tennessee, and I'll be keynoting their graduations this year. And this is the first, well, it's 3 graduating classes. This is the first graduates in prison that actually were able to get their associate's degree in the time that people get their associate's degree. So 2 years.
Wow.
So I am keynoting at the graduations. I have a couple TV things that are coming up, news things that are coming up. Hopefully I'll be relocating and, just continue to speak about the second sentence and helping individuals find success in their second chance, because that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, and I think you have some programs on your website too, some kind of classes or courses.
Yes, ma'am. I do workshops because a lot of individuals reach out to me and ask how they could possibly speak or tell their stories.
I see.
I offer workshops, one-on-one or virtual workshops for those individuals that are looking to just tell their story and become TEDx speakers.
I think that's excellent. Yeah, I love that. Becoming a TEDx speaker is in my future too. So that's on my list. I'm working on getting to that. So I think that's awesome. And I also do a workshop called Slaying Your Shame Dragon. And I think so many women deal with shame, and they are their own worst enemies, and we need to just slay that shame dragon and not let it back in our lives, because we don't want anything to hold us back. We hold ourselves back enough. We need to free ourselves.
We do. For 8 years, I was ashamed of my story. And people have to understand, telling a story is freeing.
Yes.
And then it gives you power back and takes power away from other individuals that are holding that story against you.
Yes,
because
I love that.
Happening to me.
I just love that. I love that. I feel like we have a lot in common, and I definitely, Tanaine, I really want to stay in touch. I think we have so much synergies, and I love everything you're doing, and I wish you all the best. I think you're doing awesome work out there, much needed work. So what's one question you wish I'd asked you, and how would you have answered it?
Geez.
Is there something else you'd like to share that we haven't talked about?
Let me think about that. Because I literally was asked this question yesterday. What did I say yesterday? Oh, man. Well, now that you put me on the spot, I can't remember, or I can't think of anything. But what would I say to returning citizens that are coming home?
Yeah.
And I would say that there is a light at the end of that tunnel.
Yes, there
Just
is.
open your eyes and you'll see
I love
it.
that. I love
So
that.
keep going toward that light.
I love that, Tanaine. Thanks so much for joining us today. And I definitely look forward to staying in touch for the rest of our lives. I think we have so much in common. Thank you so much, Tanaine.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me on Fierce Conversations with Toby. Your support and listening means so much to me, and I hope today's conversation makes a difference in your world. If you would like to support this podcast, there are many ways to do so. I found these ways tend to help the most in getting our message out into the world. Number 1, subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to or watch this podcast. If you can leave a 5-star rating or a like on this episode on YouTube, that helps even more. And if you leave a comment or a review, that helps the most. The next way you can support Fierce Conversations with Toby is to join our Patreon at patreon.com/Fierce Conversations. All tiers come with a downloadable digital gratitude journal created by me and membership in a private Facebook group that I also lead. Most importantly, 10% of all proceeds from your subscription will go directly to donating my workbooks to women in prison. Finally, sharing the link to this show with your friends, family, and anyone who wants to listen is appreciated more than I can say. Thank you again for joining me today and supporting this show by listening to it and sharing it with friends. Fierce Conversations is created and hosted by me, Toby Dorr. Produced by Number 3 Productions. The theme song that you're hearing now, Groovin', was composed and arranged by Lisa Plass. Lisa also plays the flute for the theme, with Carolyn Parody on piano and Tony Ventura on bass. Find out more at tobydor.com. This is Fierce Conversations with Toby. Escape your prison.